So now we start the recording. So hello everyone, I'm Okan Arslan, your host today. I'm a PhD candidate at Texas Tech University. As AECT, a Graduate Student Association, we're super excited to start our webinar series today. And we will host monthly webinars for a variety of topics during the year, and this is our very first one. So today's topic is about how to review AECT proposals for the convention that will be held in Jacksonville next year. First of all, on behalf of AECT GSA, I would like to welcome everyone who are attending online and for those who will be watching this recording later. Before we begin, let me introduce our panelists for today, Dr. Shunji from University of Oklahoma and Dr. Victor Lowe from University of New Mexico. So just a quick note for the participants. We are using the webinar feature of Zoom and attendees are not able to see each other and do not able to speak up. But rather you can type your questions into chat. So we'll be monitoring the chat during the session as your host, and later in the Q&A section at the end, I can unmute you and you can direct your questions to our presenters. But for now, let's get started, and I would like to leave the stage to our presenters, Dr. G and Dr. Lowe.
Thank you, Okan, for preparing the PowerPoint and organizing this webinar series. We really appreciate it. And my name is Shinge, the Professor of Learning Sciences from the University of Oklahoma, and I'm the President-elect, AECT President-elect, and the convention planner for 2020. So I'm going to, and then my Victor Law is my convention co-planner. So we are going to talk about this, to conduct this panel together. Next slide, please. So a number of items that are going to be covered are listed on this agenda slide. How to volunteer as a reviewer in all academics, and Victor is going to talk about that. And then I'm going to cover session types, proposal types, and the rubrics for evaluation and the reviewer responsibilities. Victor, please.
Sure. Yeah. First of all, welcome everybody, and I'm excited to talk to you regarding to how to be a reviewers and how to get through the process. And of course, like Dr. Shinge will talk about more details about how to do, like how to conduct the reviewing process. Like currently we have 1,036 proposals, which is like one of the highest, like in part, at least in the recent years. So we are very, very excited. And thank you for Okan, like creating that URL. So if you click that URL, like you can get into the AECT submission, the all academics page. Of course, if you have already submitted, you probably are familiar with this page. But yeah, if you are not, then you probably can like just use that link that Okan produced. So the number one things is you can, you should enter your username and password there, like as shown in on the right side of your screen. If you do not, for whatever reasons, if you do not have one, you can always create a new account. Yeah, but if you have it, like you can just do it. This is the next screen. Thank you, Okan. This is the next screen. When you get in, you scroll down. I forgot because I have a different screen, but make sure you look for this and click the volunteer to review. When you click it, then you will get to the next screen, please. Yes. Then you enter the forms. You are probably familiar with this kind of form. You just enter everything like with a red asterisk. All of those are required. And one of the things is in the keywords, please choose all two, because the more keywords that you choose, the better we can match you up like with the proper proposals that you feel you have the expertise to do so. So, and of course in the strengths, you can also like check one too. So, and the next screen, Indeed, I forgot. I think it's a very, very long screen. So Okan helped us to separate into multiple so that you can see all. But if I recall correctly, it is in one long screen. You just scroll down, like to see everything. So in this screen, what you do is you check the divisions or affiliates or special strands that you want to reveal for. So in other words, you do not have to reveal for every divisions and affiliates. You can choose. So for example, I really like and I feel that I have the expertise in design development and culture and learning and technology. At the same time, I also want to reveal for the e-learning Africa. So I can check like whatever number of boxes that I feel I want to do it and I have the expertise to do it. Okan, can you flip to the next page? I think like there's one more, like exactly. So this is still in the actual web page, it is still on the same page. You just scroll all the way down, you can see all of those. Yeah, and once you check everything that you feel you're comfortable with, then on the right-hand side, bottom right-hand corner, you will see a button called Accept and Continue. So once you click it, it will lead you to the following screen, please. Yes. Then the following screen basically telling you like which divisions or group that you check. So in this case, the person checked for 5. That's why at the end, they put a summary and say, you check 5. And if you click accept and continue at the bottom right-hand corner, please go to the next. Then you're technically done. You will see this screen, and this screen is telling you that you complete the process and you should also receive an email from all academics. Then you completing the process. So if you haven't signed up for a reviewer, like please do so. And I can go next, and I think it's Shin's time.
Okay, as you may already know, there are different session types, which may seem confusing to the first time, members who have just signed up for, just submit the proposals or submit as a reviewer. But basically, so let me just elaborate these a little bit. So we have different types of sessions, including concurrent sessions. So concurrent sessions are paper presentations, and each of the concurrent sessions is bundled as a bundled session consisting of 3 or 4 paper presentations. So each of the presenters will probably give like a 15 minutes presentation. And there's a discussant putting the thing together to address the common themes and things like that. And feature research sessions is actually also can be considered as a concurrent session, but with the difference is that feature research are selected research papers, and the proposals are submitted to that section for consideration. So it's more competitive, more selective. And it's also bundled, but with the 2 papers, less papers, so that the researchers who got selected to present as a feature research has more time, like probably 20 minutes, 20 or 25 minutes for the each of them, and then 2 will make it like 45 sessions. And then we have like a fee-based workshops that's very, very low cost. Workshops conducted by invited presenters from outside AECT organization or by our own members. And the workshops range from very like a technology base, for example, how to use VR, or how to design mobile apps, from the very techie workshops to hands-on workshop to something more theoretical based. For example, how to design research-based study, research design, how to do research design, or how to do makerspace, so pedagogical. So you can see workshops from very hands-on, how to use a piece of technology, to the pedagogical and some theoretical pieces. Inspired sessions are intended to encourage AECT members and non-members to share with each other the inspirations they have while in practicing, in designing and practicing technology integrated learning environments. So it could be very, very, very common apps that's like open free apps. For example, Padlet, how to use Padlet, how to use a PowerPoint, and for different kinds of learning environments. So anything that you think is, you feel, I mean, a presenter feel they have done a successful job, integrating something into a very specific learning context, and that want to be shared with members. That's inspire sessions. So basically, inspire sessions is the inspiration you have received somewhere, and you tried it, and you test it, you feel good, and you also want to share with other members and to inspire other members. Showcases, the showcase is also the showcase through the, we say it, artifacts, through the artifact. It could be poster, it could be the digital display, it could be some like a robotics, running around in the room. So it can be very creative for the showcase. We also have a panel sessions. Panel sessions are more of the, conversations among the researchers who address a certain common topics with a common interest, especially emerging issues in our field. And then we have a poster session. So poster, we all know poster, visual with the graphics, and poster, if you want to use, digital, like a computer with a screen to share, that would be fine too. Roundtable sessions, you might also know, if you have experience attending, AECT conference or some other conferences, you may know is roundtable is a sit down around the table and with people joining, and you can share at the more relaxed kind of atmosphere, feel very more comfortable sharing your research, and you get feedback from the attendees. This time we are going to try something a little bit different. In the past, a round table is like every presenter will have a round table, have a table number. And the attendees can choose to go to whatever table with the topic and sit down, interact with the presenter. And this time we plan to group the presenters with the similar topics or themes together on one table. And then we will have a discussant. The discussant can be one of the presenters or someone from outside the group to discuss some of the common issues and provide suggestions and discuss how this study can be taken further for further study or further for publications and disseminate. So next slides, please. Do you have any questions so far? Okay. And so proposal types, we can, you will probably see a lot of empirical research and conceptual research in the concurrent sessions and in panel discussions, as well as in roundtable. Inspired, my understanding is more for demonstration of the more practical and design-based research. So that's, we have an instructional design and practice. Instructional design and practice, it can also be included in concurrent session. For example, you talked about how you design something and it has been implemented and you gather the first-hand data, the first round data, but it's more focused on design. It can also be evaluation, it can be implementation. So it can be any of the, ADDIE, any phase of the ADDIE. It can be needs-based, like a needs assessment. I already talked about Inspire. So Inspire, I see that Inspire is also part of the instructional design and practice. Next slide, please. Let me see if there's any question. Okay. I don't know whether we have the rubrics that's taken the screenshot from the the rubric system. Maybe Victor, you have that screenshot you might want to share. So basically, there are 8 items in the rubrics. If you sign up as a reviewer, and then you will be assigned with probably average of 6 proposals. And then you can see the like scales ranging from 1 to 5. 5 is the best, excellent, and 1 is poor. And next slide, please. And I'm going to explain each of the rubrics criteria. So first item, we look at the alignment between the convention theme and the theme with the call from the relevant division affiliation 6. So the alignment between the convention theme or the different AECT unit theme and the proposal. This year's theme is towards culturally situated learning design and research. And we do want to take this, make this as a priority. I mean, as a really very important piece as we evaluate a proposal. And of course, there are also unit themes, and the unit themes are also aligned with the conference themes, but they have a very specific request for the proposal submitted to a specific unit. So this is alignment, the first criteria, and the second criteria is the timeliness and the general interest level of topic. Timeliness is like, okay, is this research, does this research address a current emerging issue? It could be something that was discussed maybe 2 decades ago, but if you readdress that, a topic that was discussed, that was researched 2 decades ago, is there anything new? Is there anything that you contributed, built upon the past research, that you contribute to this research to make it very interesting and timely for the current research? The third criteria, all right, there is a question, I think. Okay, the conference theme. Okay, I'm addressing one of the questions that's posted to the chat room. The conference theme is towards a culturally situated learning design and research. That means that when we talk about research, we need to look at a specific context. That context can be a classroom environment, a classroom culture, the school environment, school culture. It can be an organization culture or international context, okay? So for example, in the international context, I've been reviewing a study that talks about the introducing problem-based learning to a country like in Qatar. It's a very top-down approach. Government, okay, government wanted to launch this initiative, but the teachers are faced with all kinds of challenges. So in this context, we really wanted to see, okay, what kind of challenge and how this adaptation, what does that mean? And what does that mean to the teachers? What does that mean to the study? So we really wanted to see a very rich description of the context, including the policy, where they are from. Okay, they're, for example, they are from very, a culture dominated by the authority source of knowledge. And that's one of the examples. So it could also be something like in the school culture. For example, in the school that I have been working with, a school that's, even though the school is in a suburban school district, but there are some of the schools with a higher socioeconomic, higher rate of lower socioeconomic students. And so our research was about makerspace. So we have all kinds of tools for kids to play with, from very digital, like high digital 3D printers, robotics games to something like a Lego. And some of the kids we found actually were fascinated by Lego. And this kid we observed, and she did not want to participate on any of it. I mean, she was so engaged in the Lego playing, and she forgot, and she was not very engaged in the group discussion or something. And then we found out, okay, this kid had very little opportunity to play Lego in her home, because her family could just barely was able to afford that. So it could be, so I'm trying to give the example about the rich context. When you design a study, when you deliver, trying to introduce an instructional design model, right? Instructional designers really like models, all kinds of models. But when we look at the models, we also need to think about how we adapt this specific model in a very specific context. And when we discuss the results, we need to refer to the specific context, why the results were not as expected as we had. And so, the culture is really defined not just about, social justice is a very good topic about that. For example, how you integrate technology in the schools with a high rate of lower socioeconomic students. For example, in inner cities, that's good. But also it means how you integrate this situated design and culture situating in the context, in the social cultural context. There are all kinds of contexts. So it could be design-based, it can be, we can talk about, look at the results, how to interpret data. So it's very, very diverse. It's not like a very superficial, we have to talk about Blacks, Latinos, but I was mentoring a junior researcher, and she said, well, my school is really, in an affluent community, okay? So how can we reflect this social cultural, aspect? And I said, maybe we can, as you engage students in inquiry-based learning or problem-based or whatever, maker-space learning, can we guide them to work on some of the projects that can really beneficial to the society, to people who are in more disadvantageous, situation, and through their projects, they get to know the students or the community who are different from them. So there are really a lot of things we can think about culturally situated learning design. So I prefer to define this term more broadly. Yeah, does that make sense?
Dr. Good, there is a question about how much will be the population size while testing a hypothesis.
Can you repeat that question again?
How much will be the population size while testing a hypothesis?
Interesting. Okay, that's a research question. It depends on whether it's a quantitative research or qualitative research, right? If it's a quantitative research, there is a certain, the rules you have to follow in order to test a hypothesis. But if you are a design-based researcher, your focus is really looking at a small group of students, how much progress they have made, whether they are making progress. If not, then you might want to improve your design. So yeah, this is a research question. Victor, do you have anything to share?
Sure. Yeah, like if it is a quant study, Cohen has a table depending on the effect sizes and effect sizes that you expected, then like it will return to a minimum number of participants that you need in order to get the correct get an appropriate answer. So again, like talk to your quant specialist, like they will tell you. Regarding to qualitative, I usually will go back to refer to some of the handbooks. They will give us some ideas about it, and of course in qualitative we always talk about like situations, like those are some principles that we may use. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. Yeah. Oh, so go back to the design. I was also thinking of another example about the cultural situated design. So for example, user testing, right? So when you think about the users. Have you thought about, like deaf and blind when in your design, So all of that is really the cultural awareness, cultural sensitivity. That's all aligned with the conference theme. All right, so let's move on to the next slide. Thank you for those wonderful questions. Theoretical framework and conceptual perspective. So that's very important. Because we are talking about research, often I've seen some researchers, oh, I have a wonderful idea. I just want to take it and test it and see if it works. But we also would like to see whether, this researcher might have addressed it, and it might be interesting study, but, we already know it, because the research already says so. So if you want to say this piece of research is to test a theoretical principle, you can do that, but make sure that it has been tested. I mean, the previous research has not tested, but if it has been tested, but then the results can be inconsistent. And so in this way, so that's why you have all the reason to come up with a new study, right? Yeah. And then the contribution to the field and advancement of the field. I think it's very important for a field to make to make progress, for a field to advance the field. Our organization, if we want to lead the field, it's very important to have a very good understanding of what we have achieved so far as a field, and what this conference, what we can bring and build upon the past research, and what new contribution we are going to make to the field. I've seen some of the proposals, not necessarily proposals, can be studies, manuscript. I've done a lot of manuscript reviewing, at my senior status. A lot of times I have read the studies that looks fine. They have very nice format with a theoretical framework, appropriate research methods, questions, and then discussions. But then my question is, so what? I already know this. Is there anything new? So very important. We don't have to say, we don't have to like to share with our field with this world that significant. How big contribution we have made, but it can be something tiny contribution. Anything that's significant, anything that you think it will help to advance the field. That's very important. If a proposal is still talking about ADDIE model, testing how the effect of implementing the ADDIE model, then is this making a contribution to our field? Like a Garnier's work. I like Garnier's work, but what you can do with the Garnier's principles, like, okay, 9 events, if we are still talking about 9 events without connecting to the current research, then we are still working on something that was like, we already know that researcher showed us 20, 30 years ago. So I'm not trying to discredit Garnier's work. I'm still teaching Garnier, but I really want people to understand where Garnier is coming from. Okay, and now what's the limitation, and how can we adapt this his principle in the more open learning environment, just for an example. Number 6 is about the clarity of writing, and format. So we look at the organization of writing. A proposal should have an introduction, a purpose, the goals to be achieved. If it's an empirical research paper or a conceptual paper, then we need to look at the research questions. And then results, implications. But for the design, of course, we need to have the, if it's design paper, we wanted to look at how detailed the design, whether there was a description about the design. And I'm going to talk about more, elaborate this later. And so following a standard format, it can be APA. If people are not familiar with APA, for example, it can be Modern Language Association format, that'll be fine, or Chicago, but it has to follow a certain standard format. Considering our members are so diverse, you know, coming not just from education, but also from other fields. So we are okay accepting any kind of standard format with both citations and references. Okay, so number 7, data, evidence, literature review, and design practice description. So we have to break it down, because if we use data sources, that specific descriptor does not fit other types of paper, like a design practice inspired proposal. So, so for empirical proposal, of course, we do want to look at the data sources and the evidence, shared by the researcher, included in this proposal. For the conceptual proposal, we would like to see the literature review and whether the literature identify key constructs and explain the relationships among the constructs. For the design practice inspired proposals, we examine the detailed description of the design. Okay, next, please. And then with the results, conclusion, support for argument or design practice. For empirical proposal, of course, we would like to see the results and the conclusions, and we want to see whether the results sustain conclusion. And for conceptual proposal, we would like to see whether the argument proposed by the researcher is supported by evidence that warrants conclusions. For design practice inspired proposal, we would like to see whether the design is supported by empirical evidence and theoretical framework. Okay. Okay, now this slide is about reviewers' responsibilities. We need to, every proposal has a scores and then accumulated scores, right? So you need to carefully and thoughtfully select the score, assign the score for each of the criteria, each of the 8 criteria I just discussed. And there is also a common area, and you must provide the written feedback to the presenters regarding the proposals. You can ask the questions, other things you recommend, you emphasize during the presentation at the conference. Do you have any suggestions for ways they can strengthen their proposals? And you can also give a summary, explanation, justifications for the scores you provided. For example, you gave 2 to theoretical perspective. And so in the common area, you might want to explain your decision for why the area received 2. Maybe you could say, maybe there's only one, this proposal might only cite one single source instead of a body of literature. Just give you an example. So just give a reason so that the researcher, when they receive the scores, they will have a better understanding. And it's also helping them. So I think that our responsibility is not just to pass the value judgment to the proposal, which is important, right? Evaluation is important. But another responsibility is to provide a useful and constructive feedback to help the researcher improve their study, improve their paper in the future. Okay, next slide. Session notify. Okay, Victor, would you like to talk about this notify program?
I'm sorry. So it is possible that you may not feel like the proposals appropriate for the particular divisions, affiliation, or special strands. So, or specific section types. For example, somebody's propose in like to a concurrent sessions. However, you feel that maybe the proposals are more work in progress, so it may be more appropriate for a roundtable or a poster. So this is one possibility. The other is they submit to, let's say, like to culture, like culture theory and learning. However, like you don't feel that that particular one really fit the descriptions of the call, and instead you feel that, oh, maybe it's fit the healthcare sick better. So you can also suggest like to the planner. So when you do this, the planner will get a thing and say, oh, this one we may need to move it to something else. So this is something for the planners to better assign the proposals to the right place. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Victor. So yeah, also, so you can write this kind of suggestion in the common area. So it will help our planners tremendously. Yeah, you can say, well, this proposal, it seems that there's a lot of artifacts to demonstrate. So maybe it might be better for a poster, you know. So it's not about which one is better. It's not like a concurrent session is better than poster. It's really about the content of which kind of proposal fits what type of a session.
Yeah. Exactly, it's a fit issue. So please,
yeah.
So if you see appropriate, like please don't hesitate like to tell the planners, because it will help us to do a better job like on assigning. As we talk about, we received more than 1,000 proposals. So it is difficult for all the planners to review everything. So all your comments will be very much appreciated. Thank you.
There's a question in the chat room. For empirical proposal, should source be mentioned only? I don't quite get this question. What do you mean by source be mentioned? Literature source or the data source?
Let me unmute the attendee just a second. It's from different. Okay, Debian, you can talk.
You need to unmute yourself first.
Yeah, Debian, you please click unmute for you. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, if you are talking about data source, yes, data source need to be included.
Yeah. Only mentioning the people is sufficient.
Can you type in the chat box?
Yeah, the voice quality is bad.
Yeah.
Okay, I think if we move on, he can elaborate the question and we can ask it in the Q&A session at the end.
Okay. Yeah, I think, yeah, data sources, yeah, definitely. For example, this, evidence is based on my interviews or survey data or, or the post-TED data. Yeah, on essay. Yes, it's very important. So we are done, right? Yeah. Yeah, we have time for Q&A.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Gui and Mo. Okay, attendees, if you have any questions, you can type it on the chat place, and we can speak that aloud, or we can let you to speak for direct your question to the presenters. Is there any question?
Hi, this is Irene. I have a question. Can you estimate how long it typically takes a reviewer to review one proposal or all 6?
It is a very good question. And it is very difficult too. For an experienced reviewer, like it will be a lot quicker because, and also depends on how the person's write too. If it is an experienced person writing a proposal, and frankly, all the students should learn how to do it so that your story can be told clearly and easily for the audience. So I usually write it like a conference, like a paper that we read every day. So there's always an introduction, like even though like an introduction, a lit review, or the background sections. For empirical sessions, like empirical paper, I always has a method results. So all the titles will help the audience to easily see like your story, like separate a clear sections on the what's that called, on the research questions, like make it very easy for the reviewers to see what are the questions you are trying to attack. So if people do that, it will help me quickly to identify, okay, those are the things. And also probably professors are quite familiar with the literature. So when we see the literature, we get a quick sense of like where you are coming from. Versus for a student, it may take a little more time. My suggestion is, like, even though if it's your first time, try not to spend more than an hour on each of those, because like it's quite some work. Yeah. If you need more, like you can, but for an experienced person, like it can take like shorter time, like for them. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to suggest probably 30 minutes per proposal. You come to think about, it's 1,000 words, right?
Exactly.
So, but I have a suggestion. You can spend 30 minutes to 1 hour. It also depends on the clarity of the proposal. Some of the proposals are very easy to follow, well written. It might take less time. Or some of the proposals are poorly written, and then you just get frustrated, and you don't have to spend a lot of time. My suggestion is to have, read the first time, have some initial impression, and you can have some assign the scores initially, but don't submit it. Let it sit there for a while, let it sit for a day or two. And basically, when I review a manuscript, I don't, I would go back a second time after a day or two to make, when you go back and you can evaluate your your earlier judgments and see if those thoughts, judgment was still valid or not, And if, when you go back a second time, you still feel the same, or maybe when you go back second time, some of the questions you might have became clearer. So I would say read it and, have some impression, and then you don't have to score it the first time. If you want, that's fine, but revisit it, let it sit, and then you have time to reflect. You can go and, walk out and still think about a proposal. I think we really need to have some time and space and to think about, and then revisit it and assign the score before you submit it. I would say, 2 times, 3 times, to make sure we are responsible as we provide our feedback, as we assign the scores.
Okay, we have a question about how long is the review process gonna be? Like, how many weeks are you gonna allow? Dr. Low, you already put your answer in the chat box. Can you speak aloud for the answer for the other attendees?
Sure, like the answer is 3 weeks. The goal is like to give the reviewers 3 weeks to review. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And another question from Debian, can research on think, pair, share be accepted if tested on 30 students for 1 semester? Just one example, what should be the important points to remember?
This is a difficult one, but like the the simple question is, please like think about, it's not about just like think, pair, share or like 30 students. It's more about the rubric. So go back to the rubric. Think about how you align with the conference theme. And when you talk about your research, like how you justify to your participants. Of course, we only have 1,000 words. So when I review, I always like think about it. Okay, we only have 1,000 words. Like you cannot do a lot too much details regarding to this, but in general, it's like, what is the theoretical framework behind this, and then what is the contributions like to the field. So all of those, this is the reasons why we have this session, is talking about how to produce a good manuscript or good proposals to tell these stories to the people. So if it is more about an inspire sessions, so what is like, we inspire sessions require a lot of interactions and like descriptions of the problems, all this kind. If you think that it's more of the practice, then think about how it's related to the practice. Again, it is not a one size fit all. Like I can tell you like there is a silver bullet that if you do this, it will get accepted. Even for Shin and I, like when we submit to manuscripts, like for conference or journals, we may get rejected. So it's very difficult to give like one good answer. Shin, do you have something to add?
No, I think you did. Yeah, you answered the question.
Okay, I have one question that we didn't cover in the presentation. So we encourage people to be reviewers. So is there any deadline to apply to be volunteer? Like,
that's good. Yeah, please do it ASAP. So we will assign reviewers very, very shortly, like probably today. However, if you are like kind of signed up quote unquote late, it doesn't mean that like we cannot use your help, because even after all the reviewers are assigned, we still need more reviewers like to help. So please sign up as soon as you can. But if you cannot do it today, like please still signing up, because we need people's help.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions?
I have a question. This is Irene again, regarding assigning reviewers to proposals. Is with the number of submissions and then the various people who are submitting who also might be reviewing, how complicated is the process of matching reviewers to proposals?
It is very, very complicated. Thank you for Larry, who is the AECT staff. Like he has an algorithms like to help to do it. However, there will still be like, you know, the algorithm is as good as like who writes the program. And at this time, the programs are still very, very complicated. So professional criteria for reviewers, at this point, we only have like two different level, is students or non-student. And we try to keep like 1 students per proposals, and then like for the scholars, like professors, like researchers, like at a kind of as an other criteria. So we are matching like the whether they are students or not. And also, like if you still remember, I asked everybody to check the words for keywords. So it's showing your expertise. So the system will match the expertise to the proposals to make sure the reviewers has the expertise to do it. Yeah. So professional criteria for reviewers. Technically, no. Yeah, but we expect that when somebody come up and say, I want to be a reviewer, they will have like some understanding of the field. So no matter like from the practice or like from the theories and research. So for students, since you are already learning it, you definitely like has some expertise to do so. And this is another reasons, like in the slides I show, we ask which part that like which divisions. So for example, one of the division is CLT, like cultural learning and technology, something like that. So if you don't feel that you have the expertise to do so, like you don't have to check that box. For example, there's another one is the healthcare. So if you do not feel that like you have the expertise to do this, like you don't have to check that. Again, I'm not discouraging people like to use those two, to check those 2 boxes, but I'm just like providing you some examples. So feel free to check the boxes that you feel comfortable to do it. Again, all of those are quote unquote self-reported. Yeah, so it's up to you. Shin, do you have any suggestions?
Sorry, no.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, I think that's all. And I would like to thank you, Dr. Gu and Lo. It was super helpful for the reviewers, especially for the graduate students. We really appreciate your information given us. And thank you for the attendees to participate this webinar. And we recorded this session and will be posting for other people. And thank you all. So I'm
Thank
ending
you all.
the
Thank you all, Ken.
recording.
Thank you for
Yes.
having us.
Thank you for coming. Yes.